As retro trends sweep wider society, football is certainly no exception. And as football becomes increasingly commercialised and clubs become global brands, fans are looking for a return to the glory days when it wasn't a big business. So what impact does nostalgia have on modern football, and how are clubs cashing in on the trend of looking back instead of looking forward?
Hello and welcome to Football Now from Oxygen Park in Doha. Whether it be balls, boots, or for the purpose of this episode, football shirts, the game's retro gear has never been more popular with fans and fashionistas alike. But a shirt manufactured 10, 20 years ago can be quite difficult to get your hands on in 2024. Many companies have them ready to sell, but as you can imagine, shirts labelled as a vintage item can be sold at a much higher price.
For example, let's take a look back at a selection of Premier League football shirts released in 1992, compared to their present-day price. Back then, the average price for these kits was €35. To get your hands on the very same Liverpool retro shirt today will cost you €239. For a Manchester United fan, the rise is even greater, nearly 10 times the original price at €360.
With old shirts now selling at a whopping average increase of 617% compared to when they first went on sale, just what is driving that increase in both demand and prices?
When your club you support is releasing a new shirt every season for 120 quid or whatnot, which will then be replaced for next year and doesn't have that legacy or that history behind it, why wouldn't you go and buy a shirt from the 80s, 90s, noughties, whatever, that has history behind it, which will never go out of date, really. These sort of shirts have a long-lasting memory in fans' mind, and for a lot of them, they just look a lot cooler, I think. When people go to festivals or gigs, there's a lot of retro football shirts in the crowd, and I think it's all part of style and fashion now.
So the retro kit is now a big modern day business, with outlets dedicated to selling vintage shirts both online and in retail stores. UK-based company Cult Kits is just one example. They started as a blog celebrating rare football shirts 10 years ago, but now boast warehouses full of stock and sources shirts from collectors all over the world. So how have second-hand hand-me-downs been turned into a multi-million euro industry?
The business started about 10 years ago. Yeah, I think in those early days, kind of handful of shirts a day. So it was quite a small sort of operation, but I think there's been an exponential growth, particularly in the last kind of 5 or 6 years. We saw quite a significant rise in customers and revenue during the pandemic because people had time on their hands and they had money generally as well. We certainly saw an increase in sales at that point. Whether it's down to kind of a feeling of nostalgia and a feeling of kind of wanting to tap into something that makes you feel sort of reminds you of the good times, yeah, it's quite possible. As the popularity of football has increased, football's sort of become cool again. There's a lot of kind of crossovers into kind of mainstream fashion and culture as well. So that kind of combination of things has really helped see the business grow really, really significantly, particularly over the last 5 or 6 years.
Of course, if people are spending money on retro kits, it means they aren't spending their cash on new releases, which pushes clubs to take a slightly different strategy when designing their new shirts. At the end of the day, fashion is just as important as function.
To commemorate their 20th season, Brisbane Roar's shirts this year are designed by their first ever club captain. How important is it to capture the fabric of a club in the fabric of the club?
The response has just meant more to me than anyone could know. I don't think globally any designer could put what we've put into these kits. For those that don't know, I'm the first ever captain of this club. I am the first African-Australian captain in A-League history. It's the last jersey I wore professionally. This is not 6 months, this is 20 years worth of work into this. I think for us, first and foremost, on pitch, we wanted to create kits that looked different and amazing, but also had the heritage and the story within them. It's about history, it's about authenticity, it's about continually telling those stories and passing them on to generation. So there's so much out there at the moment. I think the consumer actually, you just have to be authentic. And I think it can be done. It's just a timing and possibly a caring factor. But just always having that authenticity shine through.
2 of Manchester City's kits this season have been inspired by ones they had in the 1990s. Back then, they were in the lower divisions of English football and not the European superpower we see today. Despite unprecedented professionalism and popularity, many fans still look back on that period very fondly. So what is it about the good old days that fans prefer to the modern game?
I have to say it does have an appeal because it takes you back to when you were younger. We don't live our life in years, we live our life in seasons as football fans. And if you look at the demographic now with the Premier League, such as the price of tickets, etc. It is an older fan base that go and watch the games on a regular basis and have the season tickets. So I do, though, think that there's a problem with modern football when you look at what's making back page headlines: financial fair play, profit sustainability, all that stuff. I think generally is a turn-off for football fans. There's so much football everywhere. It was rare, and because it was rare, it was special. So I think that's part of the reason why we look at the past and think it was a bit more pure, if that's the right way.
Football, as we know it, is a huge industry, and clubs are ready to cash in one way or another. Let us know if you think fans should let go of the past, or if there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of inspiration from the good old days, using the hashtag #FootballNowNostalgia. That's all we've got time for here from Oxygen Park in Doha. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.